Imagine this. You're tied to the mouth of a cannon as British soldiers light the fuse. Boom. In an instant, your body is blown to pieces. It sounds like a nightmare, but this was a very real execution method in 1857. And if you think that's horrifying, wait till you hear what the British did to the family of India's last emperor. In today's dark historical tale, we're uncovering one of the most brutal executions in colonial history, a story of revenge, betrayal, and blood. By the end of this video, you'll see why this grim episode still haunts history and what it can teach us about the cost of power and rebellion. So, stick around, you're not going to forget this one. The year is 1857, and India is in the throes of a massive uprising against British rule. It's chaos. Both sides commit terrible atrocities. British families are massacred by rebels, and in return, British troops unleash fury like never before. The rebellion has reached Delhi, where the aging Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, a poetic old king, has been proclaimed the figurehead of the revolt. To the rebels, he's a symbol of hope. To the British, he's a traitor who must be crushed. The stakes couldn't be higher. Why does this matter to you? Because this is the moment where history changed forever in India. It's a tale of empire and resistance, showing how far people will go when driven by fear and vengeance. Understanding this story helps us appreciate the value of justice and the horrors that unfold when it's lost. And trust me, the lessons here are as relevant as ever. Delhi, 1857. The city is a war zone. For months, Indian rebels, called sepoys, have controlled the capital, and the Union Jack has been ripped down from the Red Fort. But now, the British are back with a vengeance. Their rallying cry? Remember Cawnpore, a reference to a brutal massacre of British women and children earlier in the rebellion that has left the British soldiers boiling with rage. They are determined to make an example of anyone who defied their rule. What happens when an empire strikes back with unrestrained fury? Absolute carnage. British troops storm Delhi street by street, killing and looting relentlessly. The once grand city becomes a cemetery of shattered buildings and charred bodies. No mercy is given, not even to the royal family. The British want the Mughal dynasty wiped out completely to snuff out the very idea of rebellion. And at the center of their crosshairs are Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar and his sons. Bahadur Shah Zafar is over 80 years old, frail, poetic, and nothing like a warrior. When the British breach Delhi's defenses, the old emperor flees his palace and seeks refuge in the majestic tomb of his ancestor Humayun, a few miles outside the city. With him are his sons and some loyal followers. They're desperate, surrounded, and running out of options. Can you imagine the fear? The Mughal Empire had stood for over 300 years, and now its last remnants are hiding in a tomb, hoping to be spared. But the British are closing in fast, and they have no intention of sparing anyone. Enter Major William Hodson, a British officer with a reputation for ruthlessness. This man is a piece of work, cunning, bold, and utterly merciless. As Delhi falls, Hodson volunteers for a high-stakes mission: capture the emperor and his family. He's already notorious for executing prisoners on the spot. He once bragged, "I never let my men take prisoners, I shoot them all at once." Hodson sees the Mughal royals as the ultimate prize, and he's about to play a brutal game of cat and mouse to get them. It's a sweltering September day. Hodson and his cavalry surround Humayun's tomb, turning the ancient monument into a trap. Inside, the last Mughal emperor weighs his fate. He's been promised his life in exchange for surrender, a promise he prays the British will keep. Finally, Bahadur Shah Zafar walks out of hiding, clad in humble robes, and gives himself up to Hodson. In that moment, the once mighty emperor is no more than an old man clinging to dignity as he is placed under arrest. The scene is heart-wrenching. As Hodson escorts Bahadur Shah back into Delhi, crowds gather to glimpse the fallen king. Some follow behind, mourning softly. Others are simply stunned. The Emperor of India, a prisoner of foreigners. It's a moment no one could have imagined a few months earlier. Despite the anger coursing through the British ranks, Hodson has orders, or at least gave his word, to spare Zafar's life. The old man will live, but his throne is gone forever. However, Hodson isn't satisfied. He has 3 more trophies in mind: the Emperor's sons. Bahadur Shah's sons were no saints in British eyes. Prince Mirza Mughal, Prince Mirza Khizr Sultan, and even the young Mirza Abu Bakht, the emperor's grandson, had been involved in leading the rebel administration in Delhi. To the British, these men are dangerous, potential figureheads for future revolts, symbols of defiance that must be erased. The day after the emperor's capture, Hodson sets out to round up these princes. They too are hiding around Humayun's tomb, hoping perhaps that surrender worked for their father and might work for them. So they turn themselves in to Hodson's men, trusting that they will merely be prisoners. After all, their father was taken alive. Surely they won't be harmed if they cooperate, right? Wrong, very wrong. The princes are loaded into a bullock cart under armed guard. Major Hodson personally takes charge of them. He's got no intention of letting them reach British headquarters alive. Why? Perhaps he fears a crowd could rescue them. Or maybe he just wants the glory and the loot of eliminating the Mughal heirs himself. As the cart trundles toward the city, tension hangs thick in the air. The royal captives are likely terrified, clinging to the faint hope that they'll be spared. But Hodson, he's riding with a cold resolve. He knows exactly what he's about to do, and it's going to shock everyone. They arrive at a weathered stone gateway in the city walls called Khooni Darwaza, which in Hindi means Gate of Blood. Eerily appropriate, isn't it? Little do the princes know, this gate is about to earn its gruesome name once and for all. Hodson orders the convoy to halt. All around, a restless crowd of Delhi citizens has started following, curious, angry, unsure of what's happening. Rumors ripple through the onlookers. The king's sons have been caught. People glare at the British soldiers with hate. Hodson senses the mood. He later claims the crowd looked threatening, that he feared a rescue attempt. Maybe he did, or maybe it's just an excuse for what he was already planning to do. With his jaw set and eyes cold, Hodson pulls the princes out of the cart. He barks an order that makes everyone gasp. Strip them! The 3 Mughal royals are forced to peel off their rich garments, shedding turban, tunics, jewelry, everything that marked them as princes. In minutes, they stand half-naked and humiliated under the glaring sun, covering themselves as best they can. Imagine the shame and dread coursing through them. These are men who grew up in palaces, now standing in the dirt, exposed to jeers. Hodson wanted to make them feel utterly powerless. Time seems to slow down. Hodson raises his gun. Do the princes plead? Do they pray? In some accounts, Prince Mughal, the oldest, opens his mouth as if to speak, perhaps to ask for mercy. But it's too late. Crack! Hodson fires point blank and shoots Mirza Mughal in the chest. The prince crumples to the ground, blood pouring from the wound. Screams erupt from the crowd. In rapid succession, crack, crack. Hodson shoots Mirza Khizr Sultan and then young Abu Bakht, one after the other. The air is split by gunshots and the horrified wailing of onlookers. In a matter of seconds, all 3 royal heirs lie in the dust, twitching and bleeding out their last breaths. It's a grisly, nightmarish scene. The crowd is stunned into silence, frozen in disbelief at the brutality they just witnessed. On the ground, the once proud Mughal princes are nothing but blood-soaked corpses. Hodson isn't even breathing hard. The deed is done, and he shows not a shred of remorse. In fact, he's not finished with his gruesome task. To drive the point home, to literally show people who's boss, Hodson has the princes' bodies dragged to a public place for display. Some accounts say their heads were severed from their bodies to be presented as trophies. In one chilling version, the heads are later delivered on platters to their father, the old emperor, as he sits in captivity. A final cruel punishment for daring to defy the British. Think about that. A father presented with the heads of his sons. It's beyond horrific. Bahadur Shah Zafar, upon seeing this, is said to have been so shocked and broken that he could barely speak. His dynasty, his family, everything, destroyed in front of his eyes. Back at the Khooni Darwaza, Major Hodson surveys the bloody aftermath. The bodies of the princes are left sprawled in the open, staining the stones red. Some reports say the corpses were later hung up or propped for public view near the Delhi police post, Kotwali, where citizens would be forced to gaze upon the fate of traitors. Birds circle overhead. The message is unmistakable. This is what happens if you challenge the British Empire. Hodson mounts his horse, blood still pooled at his feet, and addresses the crowd with icy triumph. "Delhi is captured," he declares. The people of Delhi, heartbroken and terrified, now truly understand that the old order is gone. News of the execution spreads like wildfire. Many British officers and civilians applaud Hodson's actions, praising him for his promptness in dispensing justice without the fuss of a trial. In their eyes, he's removed the last threat in Delhi. In fact, Hodson writes a boastful letter to his sister, practically gloating about how he disposed of the principal members of the House of Timur within 24 hours. He even says he enjoyed ridding the world of those wretches. This chilling pride shows just how deep the thirst for vengeance ran on the British side. They wanted to annihilate not just the rebellion, but the very lineage of the Mughal kings who had dared to dream of independence. In one brutal stroke, the Mughal Empire died at Khooni Darwaza that day. Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, now had no kingdom and no heirs to succeed him. After a sham of a trial, the British exiled him to Rangoon, Burma, where he would live out his last days as a broken old man writing sad poetry about his lost Delhi. He died in 1862, far from home, reportedly whispering about how his beloved sons were murdered. The British Crown formally took over India from the East India Company in 1858, establishing the Raj, and they were determined that no descendants of the Mughals would ever rally the people again. With the princes gone, that threat was ended in the most blood-curdling way imaginable. For the people of India, the execution of Bahadur Shah's sons became a symbol of colonial cruelty. It was a warning and a lesson written in blood. The site of the execution, Khooni Darwaza, still stands in Delhi today, an aging gate steeped in ghostly silence. Locals say it's haunted by the spirits of the three princes, forever trapped at the spot of their violent demise. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, standing there you can almost feel the darkness of what happened. The name Bloody Gate will always remind the world of that grim September day when an empire's vengeance turned into atrocity. Why should we remember this? Because history's darkest chapters carry the strongest lessons. The execution of Bahadur Shah's sons shows us how power can breed horrific brutality. The British thought this act would snuff out resistance, and indeed, the Mughal line was finished. But it also planted seeds of bitterness that would grow for generations. Stories of that cruelty fueled the desire for freedom, and 90 years later, India would finally gain independence. Knowing this story helps us appreciate why freedom from colonial rule was so important and hard-fought. It also forces us to ask ourselves, how far will we go for revenge or power? And is it worth becoming the very monster we claim to fight? These questions aren't just historical. They matter anytime, anywhere power is abused. In the end, the tale of the man who was blown to pieces and the princes who were shot in cold blood is more than just a gruesome story. It's a stark reminder of what unchecked revenge and imperial arrogance can do. We saw a once mighty dynasty reduced to dust and a proud city drenched in sorrow. It's dark, it's disturbing, but it's also incredibly important to remember. History isn't always pretty, but it teaches us lessons we can't afford to ignore. If this story gripped you or taught you something new, then do me a favor. Hit that like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective on this chapter of history. And don't forget to subscribe for more riveting and eye-opening stories from the past. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay curious, because the next unbelievable history story is just around the corner. Subscribe, and see you in the next video.